From the Foundation Studio right here on Biloxi's Back Bay. I want to welcome you to Super Talk Outdoors, where we are honored to celebrate the great outdoors of the state of Mississippi every single Monday at lunchtime. Thank you for joining us on the powerful Super Talk Mississippi Radio Network. But if you're watching on Super Talk TV, on Super Talk TV, right, at C Spire TV, or listening on Facebook or YouTube or your favorite podcast, it is Thanksgiving week here in Mississippi. It's amazing. I say this every week. Time has really flown by. We had a great weekend this past weekend at my place up in the Mississippi Delta. Opening weekend of gun season. Great opportunity for a lot of camaraderie. The weather was super cold. And while the mature deer movement was still pretty nocturnal, we didn't see as much daylight activity, had a lot of deer activity. People saw deer on their hunts. My friend Lance Reynolds' daughter, Riley, killed a beautiful 10-point, 231 pounds. We had people spread out among 4 different farms this weekend and really covered some territory. It was just a great weekend. You know, opening weekend in Mississippi is always an incredible opportunity to visit with friends and sit around the campfire and do what you do, you know, this time of year. It's a brotherhood. It's the opportunity for families to get together and enjoy each other's company. You know the story. If you're listening to this program, you know the story well. So, it's that time of year, man. And now we got duck season about to open up in Mississippi. And the reports I'm getting are pretty good. I'm going to show a video here in just a second. But before we go any further, let's bring my friend Ed Penny, who's the Director of Public Policy for Southern Region for Ducks Unlimited, and he's just a really good friend. And we're just going to chat with him for a couple of segments and see how things are going in his world. But before we go any further, how you doing, Ed?
I'm doing great, Ricky. Great to see you again. Too, I'm glad to see some cold weather and some cold fronts pushing south this time of year. It's fantastic to see.
Yeah, we're going. I'm curious, and I've got a theory, and we'll go here next in just a second. But with the drought conditions, really unprecedented drought conditions across the United States, especially in the flyway, which means lack of water. And then we have extreme cold. We hadn't had extreme cold this time of season in a long time. And I'm going to show a video here in just a minute. We'll describe it to the radio audience. But the duck reports I'm getting are just really, really incredible. What are you hearing?
Same thing, Ricky. What we've seen is an actual migration event that we haven't seen in quite a few years. Some of our biologists I was talking to last week described it as kind of a mini Grand Passage, which typically means they're flying straight from the north down to wintering areas like the Louisiana coast, Texas coast, Mississippi Delta, Arkansas, those types of places. So we've seen it. Obviously very dry, and we can talk about this more, but the Midwest is drier than we are.
Yeah.
We do have some ducks around.
Well, okay, so let me, and I'm going to describe this for the radio audience, but Kyle, the producer of Super Talk, I'll get him to show this quick video. It's short and sweet. He took it while he was in a 4-wheel drive, so he said, just disregard the actual video quality. But what you see is just a ton of ducks. He's riding along an area where they've pumped some water in, and this is from my really good friend Robert Schwartz, who practices law with my son Jordan, and he has a place up just outside of Holcomb, Mississippi. And he sent about 4 or 5 different videos, and they all basically depict the same thing, just an enormous number of ducks, man, big ducks. And what's beautiful about that is we hadn't seen that in a long time in these areas. So I hope it's a sign of a terrific opening weekend here in Mississippi.
That's true, Ricky. And opening weekend is going to be great. We do have ducks here where there's water. Obviously, ducks are concentrated, so I look forward to hearing some really good reports from some of my friends over the next several days. I know people are getting really excited. People were excited about it in Arkansas last weekend. So, it's a great time of year to be in Mississippi and enjoying the outdoors.
Our friend Alex Littlejohn from the Nature Conservancy sent you and me a video this morning from Arkansas of opening morning with people literally running through the dark woods once the time, literally the starting gun goes off and people literally running through the forest there. That's going to actually play out a little bit in Mississippi as well, some of the public land we've got, won't it?
It is, but Ricky, I will give a plug to my friends at MDWFP. They set up a lot of draw hunts on wildlife management areas, especially places that hold a lot of ducks. So, draw hunts will help manage a lot of that crazy behavior. But folks are excited. I understand it. Let's just make sure that we respect other hunters and we respect the resource that we all care about. So, get out and enjoy it, but be safe.
Yeah, I tell you, I am. We're honored on this show to celebrate the incredible people, the dedicated people, literally dedicated their lives to our outdoors enjoyment at the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. And what they've done in public land around duck shows that if you do it right and you stay focused on it, you create, you pump the water, you have the food that's appropriate, et cetera, that even in months, even in years when we don't have the cold weather and we don't have this, this mass exodus from the north to the south of ducks, that they can still have ducks. And I think the department has done a terrific job with that, haven't they?
They really have. I mean, our WMAs are every bit as good as any private land. You showed a great video of some good habitat there with a lot of ducks. The same thing is out there on our public lands for folks to enjoy. You do have to be safe, and you have to make sure that you're respecting other hunters. But there's ducks out there, and if you're patient and know what you're doing and you're mobile, you'll find ducks and you'll have a good time out there, hopefully harvesting several. But they do a great job, and it's really a bright spot, but it's kind of a secret out there of how good our public lands can be.
One of the things that we've talked about many times, and you and I and Alex and others worked really hard on the Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund. But one of the things that as it relates to ducks and really just wildlife in general, because Mississippi has lost habitat over many years, we have to, and this is true for ducks, it's true for deer, it's true for all wildlife. By focusing on creating sort of the best case scenario wildlife habitat, like we just discussed as it relates to the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks and the work that they're doing on public land, you can make an impact when you do that right, can't you?
You really can, and we've seen it, and it's even more important in years like this when it's dry. A lot of the work that Ducks Unlimited and our other partners do with MDWFP on public lands is we're building levees, we're putting in water control structures, we're putting in pumping systems to help these guys, these waterfowl managers, these public land managers manage habitat. So in years where it's dry like this, they can actually pump water and create habitat that would not have been there if that work had not been done. And with the trust fund, kind of linking it back to that, having the trust fund in place will help us bring more money back to Mississippi to do that very work. So it's exciting to see a good thing happening in the state of Mississippi. And over the next couple of years, we'll see all that funding start to roll out to make more places like Mahana, more places like Howard Miller, more places like Mount Mason for folks to enjoy.
It is really neat, man. I'm so happy for our state. And of course, we've talked about it often here on Super Talk Outdoors, but the work that so many organizations did, this broad coalition of outdoorsmen and people who care about the outdoor scene in Mississippi. The fact that we got the legislature to pass that, the governor signed it. We've got what I think will grow to pretty quickly $20 million a year, and hopefully we can pretty quickly get to, as you and I have discussed in the past, a dedicated funding source, so we don't have to go back to the legislature every year. But we've got tremendous bipartisan alignment around that now. And man, I tell you, when you look at the committee that they put together to oversee it, man, it's a dream team of really, really successful people who know what it's like to have to deliver and to focus on deliverables and to be able to measure success. I'm confident we're going to hit the ground running this first year, so we can have literally coming out of the out of the box here with a demonstration of what can occur as it relates to federal money. Why don't we do this? When we come on the other side, we'll talk about sort of what your observations are of the early work of this group and how focused they are and how they are a dream team and how the opportunity for us to really tap into federal sources is unprecedented. And we can show people what this is all about, and then work toward getting the legislature to agree to do some sort of dedicated funding source for the future. It's an incredible investment in Mississippi's outdoors. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Ed Penny, Director of Public Policy for the Southern Region of Ducks Unlimited. We'll see you after this.
I said 3 Mississippi to this land called home. I'll breathe Mississippi till I'm dead.
Leading the conversation on Mississippi's outdoors. It's Super Talk Outdoors with Ricky Matthews on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. Really appreciate you joining us today. I'm always pleased to come here from the Foundation studio. Foundation is working so hard every single day to protect the outdoors heritage of Mississippi. We're so lucky to have them in this great state. I have my friend Ed Penny, who's the Director of Public Policy for the Southern Region of Ducks Unlimited. We'll remind you what that is, what area of responsibility he has. But when we went to break, we were talking about the Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund and the fact that the appointees that have been placed on this from the governor and the lieutenant governor really do represent a dream team of successful people who are going to, first of all, bring an incredible amount of smarts and independence to the conversation. They're not interested in just doing one-offs. They want to make sure that we are doing what we're doing relative to the Stewardship Trust Fund in a way that's going to help meet a goal of literally delivering this promise that we're going to improve the outdoors enjoyment here in the state. So you've been watching it close, Ed. What do you observe?
I've been watching it very closely, and from my standpoint, these folks that have been appointed by the governor, lieutenant governor, they're outstanding people. They understand the importance of the trust fund, and I appreciate that. And most of all, I respect their willingness to think through what this should do for the state of Mississippi. A lot of them care about the outdoors. They hunt, they fish, they get outside with their families, but they didn't have the experience of setting up a trust fund. And that's entirely unique for our state. We've never set up a new conservation trust fund, and they're taking this task very seriously. They're asking a lot of good questions. They're talking about how certain projects could fit within a much larger plan. So what that shows me is they understand that we can't just do the typical approach that too often we do here in this state. They want to plan, they want to execute, and they want to implement, and they want to report back and show how well the trust fund is doing for our voters and for our taxpayers here in the state.
Yeah, I mentioned to you during the break that my friend Joe Cloyd, who used to work with Governor Haley Barbour, I got to know him really well during the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. He had a number of different roles, but he was a very successful entrepreneur here in coastal Mississippi and was appointed by Delbert Hosemann. And he's asking all the right questions. I mean, Joe's not someone who's just going to go make decisions in a vacuum. And from what I'm hearing from others, just about every single person on that committee is sort of like Joe, that the point that you're making, that they're going to be selecting projects that are going to fit with some ultimate master plan that will continue to evolve as we go forward. And the other thing is this whole notion of federal matching funds. I mean, one of the reasons why we push this so hard, if you can take a $10 million investment, the amount of money that's available this year, and leverage it into 10, 20, 30, $40 million, or another 10, 20, 30, $40 million, then you've really done something for the state. Are you confident that we're going to get locked into those types of projects that can give us the federal match?
Yeah, I am. And let's talk about how this connects to waterfowl and ducks. The waterfowl community has always had a big planning approach similar to what the Trust Fund Board is looking to do. We have the North American Waterfowl Management Plan, and that's kind of stepped down to a regional level in like the lower Mississippi River Valley or the Gulf Coast. every project that Ducks Unlimited does fits into the goals of the North American Waterfowl Management Plan. That's how we make sure that we get federal funding, because federal funds have to be linked to that in some cases. But to your point, the Farm Bill is going to be big. That's coming up for reauthorization in 2023. We expect to have very, very large funding and new opportunities for conservation. And having a trust fund in place will help us secure those dollars for the state of Mississippi and for the landowners in the state of Mississippi and for farmers and ranchers in the state of Mississippi to do things like prescribed burning. Obviously, that's not a waterfowl thing, but it's important to Mississippians. But back to ducks, we can do a lot for ducks with the trust fund and with federal funds that are coming. So
I thought so. It could be a wide variety of possibilities we've discussed before. It could be improving wildlife and outdoors enjoyment on a state park. It could be in so much incredible public land that we discussed just a few minutes ago, the opportunities to continue to enhance that. The forefathers of Mississippi were so smart in the way they set aside so much land for public use. And then, even more recently, our friend Alex and you and others are involved in the Phil Bryant wildlife management area. I mean, that's something that happened just recently. And it's, what is it, 17,000? I can't remember the exact number.
17,000 acres, I think. Right on the south end of Mahana, WMA. So that pulls it all together and makes it even better.
Unbelievable, just unbelievable focus on making the wildlife accessible to every single Mississippian. You don't have to be a farmer or a rich landowner or even a poor landowner for that matter, because it costs to own land. But the reality is, you can anyone in the state can have the opportunity to enjoy the outdoors, and the state's always been focused on that. So it could be, obviously, the public land could be enhanced. But then you think about the Farm Bill, where so much of the federal matching funds are engaged. For people who have heard CRP or WRP, programs like that, programs that really engage farmers and private landowners to do something that creates habitat. And by the way, the reauthorization of the Farm Bill that you mentioned is coming up. It could include some significant money, couldn't it?
It could, and I mean, significant meaning billions. We can't comprehend how much funding that will be, but with the congressional delegation that we have that's working hard to make sure it works for the state of Mississippi, I'm looking forward to working on it, and we're already starting to work on it now that the elections are over. We look forward to working with everybody on a bipartisan basis to get that passed and make sure it's good for our people. And Ducks Unlimited looks forward to that.
So many theories about duck hunting, man. I mean, too much habitat north, not letting them come. Some people are thinking that there's a shift to the west of the migration. Maybe there's some of that. But I think what this year is going to show, if it all plays out the way it probably, what it hopefully will, let's put it that way, that in a year where there's a drought, if you've got water, it's going to make a difference, especially in the Mississippi Delta. In a year where you've had so much cold weather and so soon, we might see a migration of ducks that we hadn't seen in a long time, and that would be fun to see, wouldn't it?
It would be fun to see. The last 3 or 4 years have been below average. I'm hoping this year at least gets to average or slightly above average. And we can't control the migration, we can't control the weather, but what we can do is enjoy it when ducks are around. Let's set our expectations to having a good time with our family and friends. And to me, that's the most important thing.
Well, listen, I'm from coastal Mississippi, and when we would do a duck hunt up in the Mississippi Delta over the many years, if we had like 3 or 4 flights of big ducks come in, to us, that was awesome. That was having ducks. And our friends who had land and did a lot of duck hunting, they would say, that's not ducks. Ducks is like the video I showed where you had thousands of ducks in one frame. And man, when you get a chance to experience that, when you get a chance to experience what really having ducks is, whoo, buddy, it's life changing, and it hooks you for the rest of your life, doesn't it?
It does hook you. And that doesn't just happen, Ricky. You know how much work goes into having ducks during the winter. And private landowners like your friend, MDWFP, they've been working all year to make sure the conditions are right. And it's coming this weekend.
Yeah. Well, my friend, my farmer friend who I lease a lot of land from up in the Mississippi Delta, the Dunn family, Travis is a really good friend of ours. And, he's got duck spots spread out all over, but man, I mean, you're right. I mean, it takes a lot of work, man. They do levee work. They start creating water soon, really early, way before the season starts. They're planting all kinds of food to make it worthwhile. It's work, but it's just like deer hunting. That effort to do that, if you do it right and you do it with your friends, it's the camaraderie. It's part of the deal, man. I mean, it's part of. It can be just as much fun as the actual hunting, and then when you actually get to start to do the hunting and enjoy time in a blind with good friends, and you got ducks like I just described, it completes the circle, and that's part of the heritage of Mississippi, man. That's just part of living here if you love the outdoors, isn't it?
It absolutely is, and these clear, cold days get me excited more than anything. I'll just go sit outside and watch the clouds go by and watch the wind blow through the trees, because it is a fantastic, unmatched time to be in Mississippi.
Hey, we're going fishing. My son Justin is in town from New York City. He's got his girlfriend with him, Lauren. We're going to go fishing for speckled trout this afternoon. I'm going to cook some wild hog that I killed on Friday. And we're going to cook some fish. She's never had fried okra before. We're going to put some fried okra in front of her. But, the field to the table lifestyle, I am honored to be a part of it. It's been a pleasure to have you on, my friend. We'll have you back on soon.
Let's do a duck gumbo sometime soon, because that's on the menu for me this week.
Oh, wow. That'd be so much fun. This has been Ed Penny from Ducks Unlimited. We'll see you after this break. We'll continue the conversation. See you then.
Thank you.
This is Super Talk Outdoors with Ricky Matthews on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. I really enjoyed that conversation with Ed Penny. He's a good friend of mine in Super Talk Outdoors, and he's working so hard with so many others like him that have given their lives to improving the outdoor heritage of our great state. And, I really enjoyed getting to know him as we worked with the state legislature and state leaders in the state to get this Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund passed. And, man, I hope the duck season does play out sort of the way that he talked about. The video from my friend Robert Schwartz certainly suggests it's already begun to unfold that way, and we shall see. So let's shift gears. If you go about 5 miles north of Quitman, Mississippi, on Highway 141, what you're going to find is a little slice of heaven on earth in Mississippi called Clarko State Park. What a special place it is. In fact, I spent some time this morning looking at all the wonderful pictures that are coming from that special state park, and kind of reminded me of the time I was growing up. My family, we had a travel trailer, and we used to send it up to Paul B. Johnson State Park and just leave it there. And so many memories, man. I mean, just so many incredible memories. I was talking to my mother about that just last week. I am so honored to have Tony Fleming, the manager of Clarko State Park, with me today. We're not just talk about Clarko State Park, but we're going to talk about the incredible practice of just fall camping in general in Mississippi State parks. Without going any further, let's go straight to Tony and say good morning. How you doing, my friend?
Morning, Mr. Ricky. Thank y'all for sponsoring us here for us on Super Talk and all that. Appreciate what y'all doing for the state of Mississippi as far as putting a good word out about what we got to offer here, from Ducks Unlimited to the state parks to MDWFP, the foundation and all that. a lot going on with state parks here in Mississippi at this time. For the next 4 or 5 years, you're going to see a lot of things happening with Mississippi State Parks. So.
Yeah, I'm so excited about it. I mean, the amount of support the legislature and state leadership is giving to our state parks. They've gone on a mission. They said that we want to invest in our state parks. We've got some capital improvements that need to be made. We got lots of things we need to do. But as Ed and I were talking about a few minutes ago, our forefathers, the work that they did to establish so much great public land for us to have access to, and the state park system being part of that, we're putting a stake in the dirt to say, come to Mississippi, enjoy some of the most incredible places on earth, and you know that well, don't you?
Oh yes, sir. Hey, you're talking about our forefathers now. These parks, a lot of them were built by the CCC guys. Clarko State Park had their 80th birthday, 2018. We didn't even think some of the guys were still around. We had a gentleman call and said, hey, I lived there on that park for 2 years, back when it was getting built and all that. And we had a special chair for him on our 80th birthday and all. The guy lived 2 more years for us. And just to have him there and people talking to him about what he did back in that day, that park, he left his footprint there at that park. And we have families coming back, and we got pictures of the old CCC guys there in the old picture frame and all that, and they'll pick their daddy or uncle or somebody out of that picture, and some of them, they'll break down crying when they find out there he is in that picture there, and of course what they did there at that park at Clarko and all. But so not only Clarko, it's a lot of other parks here in Mississippi that was built by the CCC guys and all.
Yeah, they each had their own unique stories. Your story, it's interesting because I talk about this every week, that at the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks, it's just full of people who literally dedicated their lives to our outdoor enjoyment. They have so many different roles that they play. The manager of the state parks are no exception, but it was interesting to see your background. You were actually in politics. You were a supervisor. You grew up in Quitman, became a supervisor for 20 years. I think you were a supervisor, but you were raised on a dairy farm. What a great story.
Yes, sir. Hey, it was a great life. Great for us raising my kids up, learning about the farm life and milking cows and all that, and drinking the milk that we raised right there on the farm. I wish we could still be doing it, but the way the economy is and all that, nowadays, if you're going to be in the dairy business, you got to be milking 4,000 to 5,000 head of cows, not just 140 what we was milking when we shut it down and all that. So farming has changed, just like a lot of things and all that.
But you're still raising cattle, and you got timber on your farm. So that's
correct. We've kind of converted it over to beef cows and timber and all that. So still a good life. And got farmland that we can go out and hunt on, and enjoy the good outdoors.
Well, what it means then that Blaine and Ruby and Lawrence and Ella Jane and Hayes, your grandkids, have a wonderful place to learn about life, doesn't it?
That's right. Yeah, and they come to the park about once a week there, and Forrest's been able to let them see what we got to offer there at Clarko and all that. And we do. We have a lot there to offer at Clarko. We've got 21 cabins. We got 43 campsites. We got these pavilions that the CCC guys built back in the day. And there's one family. See, we opened up in 1938. There's one family that's been coming every year. They had their first reunion in 1939, and they've been coming there every year. And they have pictures of back in the old days, back in the 50s and 60s and all that. And they took another picture when they was in the 80s and all that, and just kind of see where they transfer from the back in the 50s, the 2022 and all that. Been coming there.
Hey, what a great have a family reunion every year at that park. What a great way to stay close to your roots, man.
Yeah. Oh, it is, and they build memories there, and we got a book for people to sign in and all that, and they'll say, hey, listen, let me go back to that year and let me see who came to the reunion that year and all that. So we keep a book there for visitors to sign in and all.
What I noticed in the pictures is just a wide range of activities. You got a lake, you got incredible trails, just beauty around every corner. How big tell me about a park.
Well, that park is a 65-acre lake. It's a man-made lake built by the CCC guys and all. We offer fishing, swimming, kayaking there on the lake, and there have been some ski boats out there. We had to limit to about 5 ski boats because it's just a 65-acre, but they do try it out there. But the fishing, as far as bass, brim, catfish, we do a fishing rodeo every year for the kids in the early spring and all. And they bring in the catfish, and we put a net around them, and we try to guarantee a kid would catch a fish. Sometimes it'll be the first fish they ever caught and all that. And that memory there, catching that first fish at Clarko, it'll stick with them from now on.
So it's interesting that you were raised on the dairy farm. You were sort of in political life for 20 years, and then you joined that state park as the manager. It was a good fit for you, wasn't it?
It was. Like I said, raised there in Clark County, and when we went to Clarko, we thought, because we were swimming in the creek most of the time, during the week, raised up on the farm, we'd go swim in the creek. But if we went to Clarko, we thought we done went to Destin, Florida or something there. To be there at a place like that, and, all the attractions and amenities that park had to offer and all that. And like I said, we thought we was down there on the beach.
Well, look, I'm going to refer to a quote that I read, but before I do that, I'm not surprised by what the quote says now that I've had the opportunity to see you and talk to you. You just exude confidence and enthusiasm. You're a very positive person. You seem like a super nice guy, but it was a comment from an AmeriCorps representative who said how wonderful you were to work with on a day-to-day basis. But you've got, AmeriCorps is just one example, but you've got this opportunity to work with so many amazing people who are working on behalf of that park, don't you?
Oh, yes, sir. Hey, that group of kids that comes through there, from all over the United States, come through the AmeriCorps, and, some of the things that we do, they have never done before, as far as we was working on some of our campsite paths or working on a trail or something like that. And we built that relationship with them. And I've got a group, and I got to put in a plug for this bunch. My friends of Clarko, just an outstanding group that help us on different projects. There's somebody from the Friends of Clarko. They're volunteering doing something every week at our park and all that. So, for them, they're the one that's helped me on doing more projects than anything as far as there at Clarko. But the AmeriCorps group that's came through, we've had probably I imagine about 8 teams there. We'll put them up in a cabin and we'll feed them. But turn out the work they did. I tell them a lot of time, I said, now you're going to have to bring your grandkids or your kids back one day to see this park, what you built. They built some of our walking trail bridges as far as there in our park and all that. And I said, you got to bring them back and walk them across this bridge that y'all built here at Clarko and all that. So,
hey, you look at, I saw one of the pictures that I enjoyed this morning when I was just kind of familiarizing myself with the Clarko State Park, but it was an older bridge going across a small body of water, but I noticed that there were some new boards that were like sort of a ramp going up to the bridge. And it reminded me that when you're involved in a state park, because of bridges and walkways and all the things that you have to tend to, there's a lot of work to do, isn't there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We built one bridge. It's about 70 feet long. And it was built back when the YCCs back in the, I guess, early 70s and 80s and all. And that bridge had got deteriorated and rotted down. And so we put bridges where there was bridges and all that and restored them and all. So, for the AmeriCorps left their mark there at that park before when they did that work and all that.
Well, you mentioned the Friends of the state park as well, the Clarko State Park. As I said, there's a lot of work to do. And when we come back on the other side, we'll continue our conversation with Tony Fleming, who is the manager at the Clarko State Park. In fact, he was the manager of the year in 2019. But I'm curious, what's on his to-do list? I bet he's got a long list of things that need to be done at any given time. You got to tend to the details when you have a state park like that so many people enjoy. We'll see you with Tony Fleming after this break.
We live in one of the best places in America to enjoy the outdoors. So let's talk about it. It's Super Talk Outdoors with Ricky Matthews on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors from the Foundation Studio right here on Biloxi's Back Bay. I've got Tony Fleming with me. He's the manager of the Clarko State Park right outside of Quitman, Mississippi, and a special dude raised on a dairy farm. And so he's a guy who's very passionate what he does. And as I said before we went to break, people say they really enjoy spending time with him. You know, I want to get to fall camping across the state, but before we do it, I mentioned something about your to-do list. I bet you got a long list of items on your to-do list that you might have to do at any given time.
Yeah. Oh, yes, sir. Things that we've got there at Clarko, we've got about 13 miles of trails, and I'm always going through. We got 800 acres there at that park, and we're always looking to where we can expand those trails and all that. Back October, we had a 50K there at the park. 50K, 31 miles. We had a 50K, a 25, and a 12 all in the same day. And they got to travel all the way across that park as far as running that 31 miles and all. The guy that won it ran the 31 miles in 4 hours and 12 minutes. He was hooked up as far as running and all that. But the people that ran the 25 and the 12, I mean, you had all kind of adventures, hills, valleys, bridges, all through that park as far as being able to travel and all that. So I've got a lot of things on my do list as far as getting those trails to where, you know, people enjoy them. We got them all. This is help with my friends at Clarko. We got them all named. We got signs put out there on them. And my friends help them keep them maintained as far as de-limbing, cutting the limbs back and walking them pretty regular to make sure they're good. But a lot of other different things we're doing there at the park with the help of the state. We got what we call a little amphitheater. It's little benches and a little pulpit. Well, we fished it with the state's help and all, just to put us in an amphitheater where we can maybe attract some concerts and bluegrass, because my friends, we've been doing a bluegrass festival every year there at the park, and we've ran out of space to house that event and all that. So it's done got so big, and also we fished to put us in an amphitheater with the help of the state of Mississippi as far as there at Clarko and all. So that's awesome to hear. You know, when you were talking about doing the run there, I remember when I spent, when I was a CEO, I spent a lot of time in New York City, and one of my big accomplishments was running around all of Central Park. And you think of it being flat, but it's not. It's lots of hills, and it's quite a run. I can imagine. I'm thinking about where Clarko is in Mississippi. I bet there are lots of hills and valleys and whatever in that place. Yeah. Oh, it is. And some of the big things when they run, and we had them going down the hill instead of up the hill, and it helped them out a little bit there. But it was a great event for us, you know, putting it on. We do a 5K every year. We've been doing it for the last 6 years since I've been there. And we have a good turnout as far as on that, as far as people come in running. It'll be ladies out there pushing a baby carriage all the way around that park. And at the same time, seeing what we got to offer there at Clarko. We'll open up a cabin as far as, you know, during that run, and let them run through there and
oh, cool.
Stop at a cabin. And then next thing you know, they're coming back and doing a rental there.
Well, that's smart to run through a cabin. My goodness, that's creative. I love the innovation like that. Hey, listen, fall camping in Mississippi at state parks is a thing, isn't it?
It is. Oh, you see these campers coming in, they get that fire going on outside there. We got a honor box where people can get their wood, to have them a fire to sit around and all that. You know, as far as coming in there and enjoying this weather right there, even though it's kind of cool right there, but hey, they're still sitting out there 10, 11 o'clock, sitting around that fire, you know, making memories there at Clarko.
Well, I'm making s'mores, roasted marshmallow. I mean, we made some last night, for a matter of fact. But
there you go.
I mean, you can't, you know, this time of year, you can't crank up a fire and not roast a marshmallow.
That's it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You've seen many of those, I bet.
We have. If you don't watch out, you'll get too fat going stopping by at all them campsite pads. Okay, done eight. Got to go on down the road.
So many memories, man. Gosh, it just flashes in my head. Being a child in a Mississippi State Park, and the impression that makes on you, man, you know, meeting the other families that you didn't know before, and the things that you do, and just running wild. You can do that in a state park.
Oh, yeah. And like I said, a lot of our parks, you know, if you don't have a camper, we got some cabins. And, you know, this year, that's already in the works as far as a lot of our cabins are getting refurbished and all with the help of the legislators. So anybody that's out there, you know, tell your legislators, we appreciate what they did as far as funding the state parks and helping us do some things that's been neglected for the last 20 years. We get cabins that's going to get back as far as in better shape and all. I mean, the cabins are already nice. I mean, when you come to a park, they're rusty and all that, but we're doing some update to the cabins and all that. You know, cabins that got fireplace in there. They got heat, central heat and air and all that. So, you know,
that's so awesome. Tony, what you mentioned the state legislature, and we're about out of time, but I just will say one of the great benefits of this past session was the enormous amount of conversations that were taking place around improvement of the state park, with the Speaker of the House, with the Lieutenant Governor. Of course, the governor signs off on a lot of this, with legislators being committed. There's a lot of love for state parks in this state, and now there's a huge financial commitment to make it even better. We're out of time, but I really appreciate you joining me today, my friend.
Yes, sir. We thank y'all, and like I said, Ricky, for putting the word out for what we got to offer here in Mississippi. You don't have to go to another state. You got great things here in Mississippi as for us to enjoy.
Coming to us from heaven on earth, right there and right outside Equipment at Clarko State Park, has been the manager of that state park, Tony Fleming. It's been a pleasure, my friend. Have a great day, and listen, we're in the gun season now. You got duck season coming up. Be ethical, be safe, always be safe. Put safety first, and we'll see you next Monday.